Hey everyone, Cahlen here, and in this video I'm going to be showing you the current iteration of the solar electric bike. So I've had this since about 2018. Basically, back then I was living in my truck, my Toyota 4Runner, and I had a gas-powered bicycle, which was kind of like designed to be for survival type situations. And I realized that if things get really bad, I'm not going to be able to even fill this thing with gas, and it was so heavy that even though it did have pedals on it, you couldn't really pedal it anywhere, especially not up a hill or anything like that. So I decided I need to get an electric bike, and I need to get some solar panels so that basically if I'm not able to access the grid or any of the stores or anything like that, or if those things just become inaccessible to everyone, that I'll still be able to get around and carry extra gear with me into more remote places where people won't be able to go. So that's basically the idea here. When I got this bike, it was just the Rad Rover. Rad Power Bikes is the company, and then the bike itself is the Rad Rover, and this is the 2018, and they're up to 2023 now, so it's a little bit different, but basically you could probably do the exact same thing with the current model. Okay, it's not really that different of an e-bike. It's just they fixed some of the problems, minor problems, and it probably looks a little bit different. So anyways, you start with that bike, and it's going to have a battery sitting right here. So I got two of those batteries, and then I tore them apart and built a whole nother battery, which is what's sitting back there. Now I have a video on that already showing you how I built that battery. So if you go down below, there's going to be links to all the different things that I'm showing you here. Click on the battery one and you'll see the video about how I built the battery, okay? So anyways, this thing with this extended battery can now go, I've gone 55 miles basically up a mountain to go to a town that was far away just to see if I could get there. And I got there and I still had a little bit of juice left, so I probably could have gone about 65 miles. And since then, when I rebuilt the battery, I added a whole nother row of cells, so it has a little bit more storage power, so probably I could go even farther than that. So I would say on a flat plane, not going up or down, I would guess that I can go between 70 and 100 miles. And I haven't tested it because I don't really want to get into a situation where the bike is running out of juice and I am nowhere where I can camp or anything like that. Plus, I'd like to keep my battery keep it from getting too low, because that actually can make it not last as long, especially if you keep it down there and run it really hard at that level. So it's not something I test, but if things get dire, then I can go probably at least 70 miles and maybe even more, okay? And then I used to have a big 100-watt solar panel sitting on top there, going way back in the back, and then a 50-watt solar panel sitting up here. And that was a little bit cumbersome, for a lot of different reasons. It's floppy, there's a lot of stuff sticking out everywhere. And basically you don't really want to be charging while you're driving anyways, because you're going to overheat things. And so I decided, well, since I can't really even use solar panels while I'm driving, you can, but again, it's not a good idea. I said, well, let's see if I can get something that's more compact that folds down. So now I have two solar panels, 100 watts. So actually I have more solar panel space now. I used to have 150, now I have 200. By getting some folding solar panels, which I can fit into the panniers on either side. So anyways, let's actually go and look at all the different components more closely. Okay, so as I said, they usually have a battery, which is sitting right here and attaches. You can detach it, and it comes with a power box that you can charge it using a wall or something like that. I don't even keep that thing around anymore because I just rely on the solar. So the wires run through this tube down here and then up into this computer. This is kind of the computer for the thing where it does all of its thinking. And then it runs a line of power to the actual motor. So it's in the hub right there. It's a 750-watt electric bike motor. And then some of the cables actually run up and go into this little display up here. So you can control that. With this, basically you can shift into different assist modes. So you turn it on by holding down. Screen turns on. You can see on the bottom left, the PAS number goes up and down. So this is pedal assist. So if I have it at 5 and then I start pedaling, it's going to basically put in all the juice that it's allowed to, which is 750 watts. And 1 is like barely any juice at all. So, and also you can just turn that off if you don't want that to happen. So anyways, you can see I've got over 3,000 miles on this. That's actually, you need to add about 1,000 because I blew up the display at around 1,000 miles and had to get it replaced. Just me being stupid, basically. And then it does have some gears that you can do here. I generally don't do a whole lot of pedaling because, you know, I have so much energy in the battery, and I'm usually not going very far, so I don't need to be, you know, conserving things. Okay, let's just get a quick look at the battery here. Though again, if you want a better look, you should go check out that video. So basically this box here is the actual battery. So it's in 13 series, so it charges up to 54.6 volts, and there's 10 parallel cell lines, and those are, anyways, for those of you who want to do calculations for watt hour and stuff like that, it's basically each cell is the kind of the max 3,500 watt hours. And let's talk about the different things that we've added now. So we've got a rack here that the battery is sitting on. By the way, this is basically just here to add a little extra padding and to have a reflective layer so that the sun doesn't overheat the battery. So I've kind of loosely attached let's show you this. This is my shovel, which is really useful. It's also an axe, so it's a nice thing to have. Then the panniers are waterproof. Panniers, these ones, I got them a long time ago. I think they were actually kind of expensive. I don't remember now, but they've basically been outside for years, and you know, they don't look too bad. They just look like the sun's gotten to them a little bit. So basically it has straps or latches. It rolls up, rolls down, and inside is where I keep various stuff. So we'll go into that in a second. Then, because I took the battery off, I can now put, I think this is called a frame bag. So basically I can hold lots of different stuff in here. I have some Dyneema rope, which is kind of the strongest rope. So this looks really thin, but it can hold way more weight than something even quite a bit bigger. This is called a chi hauser. It's like a little healing tool. You do kind of like rub it slowly over your skin to help with various issues. Okay, so in here I keep a 3-liter water bottle with this is a Sawyer squeeze water filter, which is really, really useful. Don't get the mini, get the normal size. But then this thing has all kinds of different ways you can use it. You can use it as a gravity bag. You can just attach the filter to the top of a plastic water bottle and squeeze through it. So it's a really nice thing. You just generally don't want it to freeze. And that's generally why I don't use this thing very much, because once it freezes, it can kind of ruin the filter itself. Okay, I think this is called the top tube bag. So this is where I keep basically all the tools for the bike. So here is this is for inflating the tires. This is for lubing the bike chain. This is for taking tires off. And super glue. This is, you know, comes in handy for lots of different reasons, sometimes with the bike, sometimes other things, and even like, you know, first aid, it can be useful. And then there's basically just a bunch of different stuff. So I have basically a tool for every single little thing that I might need to work on with this bike. So I could basically take this bike completely apart, every single part, with all the tools that I have in here. And there's also a patch kit for the tires, the tubes. I was just putting everything back and realized also this, I should show you this. This is basically a box of extra brake pads. Brake pads can wear out fairly quickly, especially if you're going downhill a lot. And so this is probably 10 or 12 extra brake pads, maybe a little less, I'm not sure. Okay, all put back together. Then I have a mirror, which I attach right here. This set came with 2 mirrors, but it's not really necessary to have one. You're usually pushed over onto one side of the road. You just need to see over on this left side. So this thing, you know, bends, and also it's actually a little bit too loose. If the wind blows, then it can sometimes get blown, and I have to put it back all the time. So, you know, if you're looking to get something, this one, you know, it's pretty good in all other ways, but that's not such a good aspect of it. So, and then up top, I have added extra rack, and of course I have my helmet here, and It has a pretty bright LED light which you can turn on, which also turns on the, so the LED screen also has a backlight. So then you can see this is the, because I took the battery off, I had to kind of rewire how things connect to each other, and so basically I had to jerry-rig this line into the computer from the battery that I made. So that's where this is going. It's basically connecting down here, and I can disconnect this and then connect other things to it so that I can use the battery for other stuff, right? Because this is a very, very high power battery, and so it can probably, you know, run some pretty serious stuff, probably even a heater. So anyway, so this is basically a motion sensor where I have this little remote control thing, like a key remote for your car, and basically it'll turn it on, and if someone comes by and shakes the bike, it'll start ringing, right? So it's like a motion alarm. It charges with USB, which I'll show you that in a second. So then with this bike I got, this is basically a, what do you call this? Like a compression thing. Basically it makes it so you don't hurt your butt if you're going over really rough terrain, because normally this is just a solid bar, so it'll actually compress a little bit, so it's kind of cushioned. And then this bike seat is pretty cushiony. It's about the nicest one that I can find, but I have a pretty bony butt, so I would actually prefer something a little even more softer, though I probably could find some sort of pad that I could like tie on here to solve that problem. So I might do that at some point. Or if anyone knows of a really nice bike seat, please let me know. And then also back here is another USB chargeable device, which is a light, which has different modes, which is necessary if you're driving at night, right? And it just kind of straps on with this little thing here. Okay, so let's talk about the tires. This has been probably the biggest back and forth dilemma thing and troublesome thing that I've had to deal with since having this bike. So it's nice to have the really big tires, especially if you're spending a lot of time in the wilderness. Though the downside of that is, by the way, and also if you're carrying a lot of extra weight, it's also important to have big tires. So, but the downside is it's a lot of surface area, and it's a lot of air to refill if something happens to it, right? So as a surface area means you're going to catch a lot of pokey things, and they're going to go right to the tube, and basically you're going to be flat really quickly. So especially where I hang out, you know, there's pokey things everywhere, and so there's absolutely no way you're going to avoid it. You're probably going to get something poking into your tire on every single little bike trip you take, even if it's not very long. So basically there's lots of different ways that you can try and fix this. I've tried a lot of them, and I've even made videos about some of them, including going fully tubeless, which does work for a while. Tubeless is really nice. It's really lightweight, and it actually does stay together pretty well, but sometimes something will happen where your tire will go flat, and in order to refill it, once a big fat tire has gone flat as a tubeless situation, you need a high power compressor, and you're definitely not going to be carrying something like that with you. So basically, if you're in the middle of nowhere, your tire goes flat, you better have a tube that you can take out and put in it. And also keep in mind that tube is probably not going to last very long if you're not using the other things that I am using here. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to show you because I'm not going to take the tire apart, but what I've settled with now is basically I have the outside tires. These are 26x4, and then inside, I think it's called, I can't remember what it's called. It might be Tannis or something like that, but there's basically it's a fairly thick layer of foam which goes around the entire tire on the inside. So if something pokes inside, it's probably not going to be long enough to go all the way through the foam and then reach the tube inside. And then the tube itself is actually going to be smaller than what you would normally get. Remember, 26x4 is what this tire is, so that's the tube you would get. But if you're using these liners, then you need a smaller tube. And I don't remember what the tube size is, but when you buy the actual liner for whatever tire you're getting, it's usually going to come with those. And so you just, I don't recommend using the ones that they send you, because the ones that they send you, you can't take out, you can't put in the valve, right? It's not removable. You can't take out any of the parts, which is really rare. It's like a really cheap tube, okay? So get the size of that tube, buy extra ones where you can take the center part out so that you can actually put some slime in there. More not slime, but more like tubeless tire sealant, okay? So that's the last element. So basically what I do, to go tubeless, you need to have like a liquid type thing which goes into the tire, and when it gets a hole, it starts to come out and then it dries really quickly, right? And so basically you can get holes really, really fast, and they're all going to seal up really quickly, and you can just keep biking. Now normally that's not meant to be in tubes, so but I do put it in my tubes. And I'm not talking about the green slime stuff, okay? That's different, and that may work, but I'm thinking that that's probably a little bit too thick for what we're going for here. So basically, I have put, I don't remember how much, but a fairly decent amount of the tubeless tire sealant. I think it's Stan's or the Orange Seal. Those are the two companies. So basically, if something does reach far enough to reach the tube, it's going to seal up that hole within the tube, so I'm basically going to be fine. So that has worked really well. I haven't had any flats since I've done that, though the problem is that it's a lot of extra weight in the tires, and you know, weight in the tires is kind of a big deal. So, but you know, I'm not too worried about it. You know, it does reduce your efficiency and all that type of stuff, but it's worth it to not have to deal with flats. Okay, so let's actually see what's in the panniers here. On this side, this is my charging station. So this is, I don't remember what they call this, but I can plug this into that slot down here. And basically I can choose what voltage and what amperage it puts out, and it can be anything below what it's connected to. So anything, I can do any voltage and any amperage which is below 54.6 volts, which is a lot of different things, right? There's very few DC components things which aren't running well below that. For example, your car is running around 12 volts, okay? And so basically, I have coming out one side, it's like the cigarette lighter or the charger in your car, right? And I just kind of jerry-rigged it into the back here. And so basically that means then I set this thing to 12 volts, and now I can run anything that I can run in a car, which is a lot of different stuff, including like slow cookers, right? Although this thing probably couldn't handle that much amperage going through it. So anyways, I plug this in. This is basically a USB charger, and it has two 6-foot cables. One is USB-C, and one is like the previous USB for charging. So this one will charge the different components on my bike and anything that's the normal micro USB. And then this thing will charge kind of a newer USB type stuff. It's really nice to have long cables for this so that you can, you know, be using your device, you know, while not actually having to like be right up against the bike. Okay, next, let's pull out this first. So this is one of the solar panels. There's another one of these in the other side. You can see how small this is. It's less, I think it's less than 3 pounds. This is pretty amazing. I'm going to unfold this for you in a few minutes and show you what that looks like. And then the last thing in here is basically just well, I guess there's 2 more things. There's a belt, as you can see. That's for latching things to the front of the bike. And then, of course, this is a lock. Although, you know, I don't like to go take this thing into public because, you know, it wouldn't be hard to steal even if it did have the lock on it, or to take various valuable things off of it. So I try and keep it pretty much in the wilderness. Also, I don't have this on it right now, but normally I will have my extra winter sleeping bag sitting right here, right? So that if things get really cold, that I will be able to stay warmer than, like, if it drops below 15 degrees Fahrenheit, I won't be able to stay warm with all the stuff I keep in my backpack, all the stuff over there, right? So basically I will need an extra sleeping bag, and that's where I put it. But it's not going to be, it'll be listed below, but it's not going to be in this video. Okay, we're coming over to the other side here. You can see hanging down from the bike on this side is a little cable, which is basically the charging port. It's got a little fuse on it so we don't blow out anything. Okay, so this is the charge controller, okay? So Jenison is a really nice company. This is the GVB8 Boost. You have to get the custom version. They have all kinds of different voltages that you can just choose from, but none of them are going to be 54.6. So you have to actually choose the custom one and put in 54.6. Now this is very expensive. It's several $100s, but it's you know, you're gonna have a hard time finding a cheap solar charge controller that'll do 54.6. Plus, this is really pretty much the best you can get. Okay, I think they use this on space stations or maybe on satellites or something like that. So it's good stuff. Okay, then we have the other solar panel. Let's see, anything else? Okay. Also, I keep in here a portable ham radio, right? In case I need to get clued in on what's going on, including weather. That's kind of one of the main things you can use it for. So you don't need an internet connection to check the weather. This is basically a monocular for seeing long distances in case I'm trying to scout. This is the bag where I keep the sleeping bag when it's up here, right? And also inside of this, let's see if I can pull this out. If you're riding on the road, you're gonna want something like this because it's pretty dangerous out there. And let's see, basically there's the antenna for the ham radio, and then there are some carabiners, and there are also 2 carabiners on that side in case I want to hang up the solar panels rather than laying them on the ground. Okay, so this is how I deploy the solar panels when I'm ready to stop and charge. Basically, you see it just folds out, and then it folds out this way, right? So way bigger space. Got a little bit of dirt on there. Okay, so the charge cables plug into this thing right here. Okay, so basically now I'm going to put the other one out so that its thing is laying very close to this. Okay, so this is basically how I'll set it. Now I need to grab this thing, and I've set this up so basically I took the cables that came with this stuff and I kind of cut them and fused them together in a way so that now I have 2 cables, right? So these 2 are what's going to plug into the solar panels, and basically it's going to put them into parallel. So parallel means that is basically combining the wattage together and keeping it at the same voltage. So this one is about 18 volts, this one's about 18 volts, and if I parallel them together, they're both still 18 volts, but they're basically sending twice as amount of the energy, right? It's combining the energy. If I were to do it in series, then basically this would be 18 volts, and then I add this one and would be 36 volts, right? Which is not really what I want to do, because the solar charge controller is designed to basically charge with normal voltage for a single panel, right, which is 18 volts. So basically I want to put them in parallel. These things nicely actually have little compartments here specifically designed for them to go in parallel. By the way, they also have a USB port, right? So basically you can charge all your USB stuff directly off of this thing. First, you're going to want to plug it actually into the battery of the bike before you plug it into the panels, because if you plug the panels in and it has nowhere for the energy to go, basically that energy can surge into your charge controller, and that can be a problem. Normally, I mean, I have done it many times with this thing, it has not broke it, but cheaper charge controllers may break if you do something like that. So basically you want to plug this into the bike. I'm not going to do that right now. And then you're going to plug each of these into. So I'm going to plug it into here, and then I'm going to plug it into here, and then basically it's going to start charging. So that's the solar electric bike. I think I showed you pretty much everything. I do want to say that in my mind, this is kind of just an extra nice thing to have, and that I don't expect to have it for very long once things start getting pretty bad. There's lots of different reasons why it may just disappear from my life. It may just break down and I may not be able to fix it. But also, I think probably the most likely is that someone will actually take it, right? Because it is something that's very valuable, especially in a situation like that. It's going to be very valuable, and it would be fairly easy to take, even if I've secured it pretty well. So basically I see it as something cool to have. It's nice because I can keep all of my devices charged without having to ration my energy depending on whether it's sunny or not, because a single charge on that battery can be charging all of my devices for weeks. So that is nice for that reason. It's also nice that because I can get around to various places in town, like to go and help people at jobs at their properties and stuff like that without having to walk. But you know, walking is also possible, and also it is it is nice because it can get me farther into the wilderness also more quickly with much less effort and carry extra gear. But again, I don't really need all of that gear in most of the time, unless it's really, really cold. And honestly, when you're on foot, you can get even to more places that you can't get on a bike, and you can get to places where no one else is ever going to go, right? And it's not really possible to do that on a bike. Also, you're going to be leaving tracks, all that kind of stuff. So basically, I see it as a nice thing. I don't see it as something that you really need or that I really need, and in my mind it could disappear at any moment and I really wouldn't be that upset about it. So it's kind of just like a fun little toy, right? I also see it as my horse. You know, I'm like the modern day wizards. I'm the modern day wizard, and so basically this is like my steed, right? This is what you use as your horse in the modern day age. At least that's what I do. So anyways, hope that's useful. You can find all the stuff that I showed you in the list below. Also on the gear page, the bike itself will be listed under probably transportation or something like that. And if you click that link, you'll come back to this video and you'll see again the full list of stuff that's listed there. So basically I'm going to group everything that's on the bike into that one little listing on the gear page so it's not taking up a whole bunch of space. So anyways, that's the bike. Hope that's useful, and I'll see you guys later.